Hi everyone, my name is Adrian Brown and I am the Engagement and Wellbeing Manager at North Bristol NHS Trust down in the southwest. So Becky's kindly asked me to come along today just to give you a bit of an overview of what we do as an NHS Trust to support our staff health and wellbeing. I'm not sure that anything we do here is particularly revolutionary. However, what we do has shown signs of positive improvement for our workforce, and hopefully you will be able to take at least something away that's maybe new to you. And maybe you'll be able to share some ideas with me as well about what you're up to in your own organisation. So fingers crossed my slides work. Becky, can you see that okay?
Yeah, all
Great,
good.
wonderful. So just a little background about North Bristol NHS Trust. We are one of two acute and community trust providers in Bristol. So we operate in the north of Bristol predominantly, and we also have University Hospitals Bristol and Weston, which is mostly our city centre, and Weston-super-Mare, which is on the coast just outside of Bristol. So although we are two separate NHS trusts, we are venturing into a new way of working by becoming an acute provider collaborative. And basically what that means is we are looking at where our services can work closer together for the benefit of patients in our community. And that's a sort of big piece of work that's happening at the moment. So just the North Bristol side of things, we employ about over 12,500 staff. There's a mixture of substantive, probably about 9,000 substantive staff, and a lot of people on bank shifts. And that's splits into 7 different divisions who all run themselves, almost like small businesses. I say small. There are 5 clinical divisions. The biggest one has about 2,500 people, and then we have 2 non-clinical divisions, one facilities, and the other one is sort of our corporate area, of which finance sits. And we have about over 2.5, probably 250 finance staff within our trust. And University Hospitals Bristol, UHPW, they have an equivalent sort of staff size. So when you pull us together, we're quite a significant employer in Bristol in the southwest. So our trust values are we are caring, ambitious, respectful, and supportive, which stands for CARES. And when we launched our values a couple of years ago, we followed this with a new sort of branding for our well-being package for staff under the umbrella of staff experience. And the idea is that MBT cares for your staff experience. So the way we've structured our staff experience and wellbeing program is into 9 specific areas of support. The idea that there's sort of common themes that when you roll them all together, you know, culminate in a good staff experience, hopefully. So I'll just talk about each one in a little bit more detail to tell you about the kind of interventions that we provide for staff. So I would say the most important sort of 3 are your physical health, your mental health, and your financial health. They tend to be the most important factors in achieving wellness at work. So in terms of physical health, we do a lot of support for staff in working with local gyms to provide discounts. We have a green gym on site. You can see it in the photos there. The weather in the UK is not as wonderful as it should be, and so take up of the equipment is limited. However, it's there, and it's all about encouraging people to take care of themselves and improve their own physicality. We provide lots of signposting to information about leading a healthy life, and we also provide yoga classes on site for staff to access. One of our key interventions to support with physical health is our Physio Direct service. Now, this is run in conjunction with our occupational health team, which is a phone call service where people call up if they've got any sort of physio issues, musculoskeletal problems, and they have a triage call to assess if there's anything that can be done over the phone. Exercises can be sent to them. If they do require a face-to-face appointment, they can then be booked in for one of those through our physio team. And this isn't just relating to work-related injuries, it's any of life's sort of causes. So I had a running injury personally that wasn't going away. It had stopped me running for about a year. So I was able to access the Physio Direct service, and basically after 6 months of physio, I was able to get back up and running again, which is fantastic. It's one of the key causes of staff absence. So tackling physio issues is really important. In terms of diet and nutrition, we really promote eating healthily, and we organise for a local farm shop to come in and drop off veg boxes, fruit and veg boxes on site. This is all about getting better access to fruit and veg, because a lot of staff were saying, actually, we'd love to get a fruit and veg box, but I'm not home during the day, I'm at work. So they can pick their fruit and veg box up at work and then take it home. We also provide lots of information about cessation of smoking, moderate drinking of alcohol, etc. And then over the last couple of years, we've done a lot of work on generating support for women who are going through the menopause. So within our workforce, we've got about over 70% of our workforce are women. So it's sorry, if there's a little bit of background noise, if people could mute, that would be wonderful. So with our menopause support, it's something that's part of biology. It's not going away. It's not something that we think is taboo. And it's really important that we open up the conversation to talk about how it impacts women. So we provide training for managers across the trust to understand the impact of menopause and how they can support staff better. We run a menopause cafe every quarter where women who are experiencing the menopause can come together and talk about the impact it's having on them personally in a safe space. And we also have recruited menopause ambassadors to sort of help champion all that work. And that's proving really successful, and we host those menopause training sessions every 2 months and get sort of 16 people attending on a regular basis. We also promote, we're very lucky at our main hospital site in Southmead that we have a huge campus. So we have lots of green spaces, and we encourage staff to get out on their breaks and walk around the hospital, get back to nature. We have lots of biodiversity, like bug hotels and things, lots of wildflower meadows. So it's a really nice site to get out and about. And then one of the more recent things that we've trialed at MBT is the introduction of our staff health and vaccination hub. So we were able to access some funding where we could trial providing all of our staff with access to health checks. Now, this is sort of basic health checks where staff could book themselves in. It's just a 15-minute session with a nurse, and they get their body mass index checked, they get checked for diabetes, they have their blood pressure checked, and it's been a really popular thing with staff. We've had thousands of staff take up the offer, and for some staff it's been really helpful in that they've been able to find out about health issues that they didn't know about, and then they were referred to their GP, and now they're getting the support they need to live a healthier life. We also provide, the same team also provide our sort of annual flu and COVID vaccinations. So that's a little bit of a snapshot on how we support with physical health. The other big one, which accounts for is mental health support, which we badge under My Mind. So mental health absence is about 30% of our total absence in our trust. And the impact of COVID and the mental impact that had on our staff has really raised the importance of talking about our mental health across the board. So we have a number of different initiatives. We have really interesting things like our Fresh Arts program. So this is something where we're very lucky as a trust that we have an arts program which is primarily focused on improving the patient experience in the hospital, but it also has the sort of knock-on effect of staff being able to witness arts. And we have a substantial music program where we have professional musicians that come into the hospital, play music on live music on wards, where patients can really enjoy that, and staff benefit as well. It's we also have a baby grand piano in the atrium of our hospital, which we have a regular cohort of volunteers that come in day to day and play the piano. And to walk into our hospital and hear live music playing, it really does lift your experience for patient and staff and visitors. It's quite an amazing thing, and I wish more hospitals could have something like that. We are also very fortunate that we have a dedicated staff psychology team. So there's a team who are able to provide individual and team support to people who are experiencing work-based issues regarding their mental health. So they run a lot of courses about preventative measures, about how you can sort of become more resilient to deal with life's pressures. But we all know that sometimes work can cause issues, whether that's due to relationship challenges, or it's the nature of our job in healthcare, where we're sort of more exposed to traumatic events. And it's really important that we care for ourselves before we can care for other people. That same team also run weekly breathing space sessions, which is basically a facilitated breathing session where it's all about mindfulness, being present in the here and now, and looking at ways that you can sort of distance yourself from problems. Another really important sort of cultural aspect of what we do here is the encouragement of well-being conversations. Now, this is very much streamlined by NHS England, but it's very simply getting into the habit of being psychologically safe enough to talk about your well-being with your colleagues, with your line manager, so that when you are experiencing challenges, you don't suffer in silence, that you feel confident to be able to talk to others about them, and ideally get the support you need. Another sort of intervention that we provide is Schwartz rounds. Now, Schwartz rounds, you can see there's a picture there, that big group of people. Schwartz is a facilitated session where staff come together to listen to three speakers who talk about a challenging situation that they might have had within their career. And the idea is that for everyone in the audience, they listen closely to the stories that they're hearing, and they then reflect on the stories they've heard. And the idea is that they realize that they're not alone, that everyone's got a similar story to share, and it's really quite a remarkable thing to be part of. We do those every couple of months, and they tend to focus on different themes that affect our well-being from time to time. And coupled with all of this, we have access to an employee assistance program through Health Assured, which is an external provider, which is basically a call center that's available 24/7. So I often talk to people, say, if you're having a difficult time, 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday evening or Sunday morning, you can call up and speak to a dedicated counsellor about a range of issues, whether it's emotional or practical support like legalities, because legal issues do have a knock-on effect about the way we feel. So yeah, quite a lot of support, and we've started also using our pastoral care team, and there's a new service that's available at the moment through the government called Access to Work Mental Health Support. It's run by a company called Maximus. It's free. The only criteria is that you are in paid employment and you are experiencing a mental health issue at the moment. So if that's you, and basically it's access to 9 months of vocational support through a dedicated consultant who talks to you on a regular basis about how to manage your mental health issues and stay in work. It's all about keeping people in work or helping them get back to work. It's a fantastic service that's available. And when a lot of counselling sessions are hard to get to because of waiting lists, this is a really good alternative, sort of a bridging therapy that people have access to. So, another sort of knock-on effect of the joys of COVID was the cost of living crisis that hit everyone over the last few years. To support our staff with that, I was originally brought into my team as a financial wellbeing project manager, and my job was to help set up a program of support that helped staff manage the cost of living. Financial issues in particular can be one of the leading causes for mental health issues, and we needed to do more as a trust to support our staff. So over 6 months, I was able to bring in a lot of supportive information that people could access to help build up their financial understanding. So the more you talk about finances, and I hope everyone on the call understands this working in finance, money shouldn't be a taboo issue, but it is one of our sort of last social taboos. People don't like talking about it. So we really wanted to break down those barriers and stigma and make people feel it's all right to talk about financial issues. One of the things we also do is encourage people to budget. It's a really simple thing, but being mindful of where your money is going, how much is coming in, is really important to improving your financial well-being. We were also able to bring in a system called WageStream. Now, this is a financial well-being support app that basically links to people's pay and allows them to borrow money from next month's wages if they need to. This isn't something that we would recommend people do on a regular basis, but if, say, your washing machine breaks down or you've got an unexpected MOT cost, rather than going to a payday lender if you haven't got the funds, the idea is that you can borrow from what you've already earned to help get ahead of that. And then it might be that you could sign on to do some extra shifts to help build your money back up. So it's all about giving staff more control of their finances. The system also allows for people to set up a rainy day fund so that you could put around 10 to £100 a month aside to build up a reserve pot so it can help you with any financial challenges that present themselves. And that's one of the key things to achieving financial well-being, is being prepared for unexpected costs in life. That's proving really popular, and we've got about, I would say, 13% of our workforce signed up to that system. It also has loads of information about how to manage your finances better, which we found really useful for people. In terms of general financial aid, we signpost people to various hardship grants that might be available, support if they've got gambling issues. And one of the really, really valuable things we were able to do is introduce on-site citizens advice sessions. So this is something that, well, Citizens Advice is a national charity that provides amazing support for members of the public about legal issues when they can't afford them, can't afford that support. So this could be immigration, it could be relating to benefits, it could be relating to debt, all sorts of things. And because of the cost of living crisis, Citizens Advice are so much more in demand than they ever have been. It's really hard to get hold of them. So we pay for them to come in once a week on site to guarantee 4 sessions to staff to book into. And we're finding that staff have been able to really benefit from particularly financial support, housing support, immigration support, but they've had thousands of pounds worth of debt written off or debt managed, which has been really helpful. We also, being part of the NHS, have access to things like the blue light card. It's always good to get into the habit of saying that you work for the NHS, because a lot of organisations want to recognise the care that people provide. So blue light card is a great way of accessing that. In terms of travel and parking, I'll come on to that in a bit, but we were also able to offer discounts on that because it's another big stressor in life. One of the more unique things we've been able to do at our trust is support for around food. So we have a number of people across our trust who can refer people to food banks should they need to. We did toy with the idea of bringing a food bank on site, but we thought it was better to support our local food banks and encourage people to give to them. But for those who do need access to them, to have a facility where we can quickly refer people so that they get the support they need. Another thing that is quite unique to us is we have been able to offer a range of everyday value meals. So it's really important that staff in our hospitals are able to access affordable and nutritious food when they're working a shift. So we have been able to work with our facilities teams and our union colleagues to provide £1 meals, which has been incredibly popular. So at breakfast, we are able to offer £1 breakfast BAPS, so bacon, sausage, veggie sausage BAPS, and at lunch provide £1 soup and a roll or £1 jack of potatoes. And just that tiny little thing has made such a huge difference to staff. It's been incredibly popular. So, it's challenging financially. It reduces the amount of, we're basically providing things at cost price on certain things, but it really does make a huge difference to our staff. Aside from that, it's just making sure that we promote the tax relief that people can benefit from, different saving schemes people can join, and we also have a range of salary sacrifice schemes, including electric car, a cycle to work scheme, access to childcare, and also information about financial advisors and whether or not pensions are the right thing for you. Obviously, the NHS pension is very beneficial. We would encourage everyone to stay part of it, but during the cost of living crisis, we saw that a number of staff were exiting the pension to save money immediately, not thinking about the long-term impact. So we wanted to make sure they had access to financial advice to make that decision more informed. And yeah, housing has become a bit of an issue over the last couple of years as well. Bristol has become an incredibly expensive city. It's starting to get up there with London, not quite as bad yet, but it's on its way. And we're finding that access to affordable housing has become an issue, and it's something that we've been looking at as a trust to see if there's anything we can do to support staff more. So on to the next slide, which is all around how you get to work. So we find that this is a very emotive subject for people, for how they get to work. As I mentioned, Bristol is becoming a more expensive city, and we're finding that staff are having to move further away to find affordable accommodation, whether that's purchasing or renting. So the reliance of using cars has increased over the last couple of years. As a trust, we're also trying to encourage people to be more mindful of the environment. We want people to walk to work, to cycle to work, to get the bus, train, whatever is greener, the better. But it's just not applicable for everyone. So we do have a cycle to work scheme, as I mentioned. We have support around bikes as well. We provide a chap called Dr. Bike, who comes in and staff can book in with him to get their bike fixed whenever they need to. We also work closely with our local bus provider First to provide discounted bus tickets. And it's something that was, I think, quite unique to Bristol, is our Metro Mayor ran a service called the Birthday Bus Pass Scheme. And basically, over the last year, in the month of your birthday, you could apply for a bus pass and you would get free bus travel for the whole month of your birthday. That was a really popular thing and a great way to just sort of get the message out about all the sort of additional things that people can do to support themselves working as part of the NHS. But that was available to everyone, not just NHS employees. And really, since COVID, we've been providing free parking to those who are registered on our parking permits. And ideally, as I said, we're trying to reduce the amount of reliance on cars, but for those who live furthest away, they get priority to our parking register. So the next section is about recognition. So feeling valued at work is hugely important to feeling good at work. So we recognise staff through a number of different means, whether that's just general peer-to-peer thank you. We have a digital system where people can send positive feedback to anyone across the hospital. We also have annual staff awards. So that's a big fancy knees up, where we recognise the amazing contribution of people, and staff submit nominations for other staff to get recognised in that. And they also do that through our Hero Awards, which is a more regular thing throughout the year, where the good work that people do is celebrated. We also provide long service awards. So, and the NHS, working in the NHS is one of the few career options where people do actually stay a long time. We have we recognise support at every decade up to 50 years, and we provide certificates and recognition events for all of those. And when people get to 20 years, we provide them with 2 extra days holiday in that year. When they get to 30 years, they get a £150 gift, and 40 years, £200 gift, and if they get to 50 years, they get a £500 gift. Everything at their choice, and that's a really popular way of recognising the amazing support that people give to healthcare in our city. And then, of course, our local divisions have separate recognition events as well. And one fortnight a year, we do a really big push around thanking staff, and that happens every January. So Thank You Fortnight is a great way where we put thank you cards all around the hospital and encourage staff to thank each other for the work and contribution they give. Personal development is really important in terms of your career aspirations, and if you feel like you're in a dead-end job, that's going to have a really big impact to your mental health. So we want to encourage all staff to develop here. It's also a really key thing to do around improving your financial well-being, is giving staff the opportunity to progress and build themselves up into better career options. So we have a really amazing leadership management course called HELM, which is Healthcare Excellence in Leadership and Management. Within that, we run the Accelerate program, which is aimed at people who are working in lower bands, but particularly from protected characteristics, to access managerial support. And the hope is that after completing the course, it enhances their chances of getting a better paid position. We run an excellence in management course for new managers, mastering management for more experienced managers, and we also do a lot of work with our senior managers called Leading for Change, to really make sure that they set the culture that we want to have for our trust. Coupled with that, we have a new digital appraisal system through a system called Perform, which is proving very popular. It's much easier, so that individuals can feed directly into a sort of database where their appraisal is saved. Their line manager can do the same thing, and you can also send it out to colleagues that you work with to capture other feedback. And we have a really strong temporary workforce through MBT Extra, and we are very proactive. If people are feeling like they aren't really happy in the role that they're doing, we have a campaign called Itchy Feet, where they can call someone within our HR team and just have a chat to them about why their current job isn't rewarding for them. And that dedicated consultant within the HR team can speak to them about potential options and ways that they might be able to explore some other career paths, because our goal is to really keep people in the NHS, and particularly keep people working within our trust. So I touched on the environment earlier, that particularly around travel, we're trying to improve the way that we work with Mother Nature. So this is all around the focus on our environment. So we have a target as a trust to be carbon net zero by 2030. It's a really difficult thing within a healthcare environment, because hospitals generate quite a lot of waste. And there are little things that we can do, and we have a dedicated sustainability team that work on a number of actions to do with the sort of climate impact. They've been working closely with our estates team to introduce solar panels, change lighting to LED lights. We encourage our estates team not to mow the lawns in May, so that we let wildflowers grow to attract more bees and pollinators. So that's all very much organisation driven, but there's a lot that we encourage our staff to do. As I said, think about green ways of coming to work, but we also encourage them to get involved in planting trees, planting their own fruit and veg. We are very fortunate that we have a staff and patient allotment on our site. So this was up a few years ago, and basically it says staff and patients can come along to the allotment, plant veggies, and learn how to grow veggies themselves at home. Our sustainability team also produced a really, really helpful guide for growing and eating seasonally. So it talks about the best time to plant certain foods, the best time to harvest, and it's all about encouraging people to live healthier lives, eat better food, eat cheaper as well. So there's a financial benefit as well. So yeah, they're always looking at different ways that we can help support the environment. A huge and very topical subject for our staff is their general safety at work. It seems like a really, really obvious thing that working in healthcare can be quite challenging and there are risks to people's safety. So it's really high on our agenda that as an organization, we stand up to things like racism and abuse, whether that's from patients or staff. Um, we have adopted the freedom to speak up culture where we're trying to encourage more and more staff to speak up if they see things that aren't quite right or where there might be patients put at risk, but also when staff are at risk of impacts to their mental health or physical health. We work very closely with our health and safety team to help deliver these policies, and we recently ran a campaign within our HR team across the whole hospital called We Do Not Accept, and it's very much focused on reducing discrimination, racism, bullying, harassment, violence, abuse, or aggression of any kind, and really being quite firm with perpetrators to say this isn't acceptable behaviour. And that's really opened up the conversation, particularly in light of freedom to speak up. We're finding that more people are feeling confident to speak up about things that they see going wrong. So that's been a really positive campaign. We're also a very heavily unionised workforce. We see that as a positive thing in the organisation. We actually work in partnership with our unions to make sure that we are doing the best for our employees. And obviously, people, when they're part of a union, get access to a whole host of wellbeing initiatives and support available. So yeah, that's just a little snapshot on how we make staff feel safer at work. And then the last sort of section of our 9 pillars of staff health and well-being is the team. So it's really important to feel safe and work to the best possible way with the team, your immediate team around you. We do support this in a number of different ways. Obviously, we are an NHS organisation, so we take part in our annual staff survey. That really provides staff with a collective voice to raise concerns and to tell us what's working well or what could be improved. We had a 60% participation rate in the annual staff survey last year, which is fantastic. And a couple of key takeaways: we had an improving picture on staff believing that the trust was keen to improve their well-being. And our top rating question was actually recommending MBT as a place to work. That was our highest scoring question, which is over 70%, which is fantastic and a real improvement in past years. But we do a lot of work around the culture, talking to managers about how they should work with their teams to provide a space where people feel psychologically safe to speak about their concerns, about anything that's going on, so they don't feel like they're under threat for having an opinion on such things. We're talking about civility, respect, and compassionate leadership. We have adopted a patient-first strategic model. I don't know, for those who don't know about it, it's a lean project management system to help improvement projects within the trust. And we have a lot of support for our teams through our staff psychology team as well. They provide courses, one of which is called Me and My Team, which is specifically aimed at managers to come together to talk about how they can break down barriers for their teams and support their well-being better. And one of the newer things that we're about to trial is embracing social clubs, communities, and networks in our workforce. So we all know that social relationships bring people together, make people feel better when they're at work. If you feel like you belong in your place, that's to do with the people around you. So we want to promote the opportunities to come together across our workforce, whether that's based on common interests like running clubs or knitting clubs, but also peer peer support groups. We have a very diverse workforce, so we have lots of staff who have come to work here from different countries, and we are providing the sort of support to help those staff come together for direct support with each other. And we also have a number of staff networks based on different protected characteristics that help shape the organisation and make it better for everyone. So that's quite a lot to sort of cram in. And we are a team of, well, in our staff experience team, we're 3 people in a workforce of over 12,500 people. So we're a small team trying to do a huge amount of work and drive cultural change. So we can't do that alone. So we very much embrace the NHS England's setup of health and wellbeing champions. So these are colleagues from every different corner of the trust who we train up to support colleagues in their local area to make sure that they know about the different support opportunities available to them, and where to go when they're not feeling their best. And it's, aside from your line manager, it's someone else to speak to if things aren't going well. At the moment, we have about 1% of our workforce signed up to be a wellbeing champion, and that's just over 100 people. So our aspirational target is to increase that to 5% across our workforce, and that's probably in the region of about 500 to 600 people. And there's recognition that with such a large workforce, people don't always have time to read the staff intranet. They don't get access to emails, particularly clinical staff who are out treating patients. So it's really important that we have people primed and ready to talk about wellbeing initiatives throughout the trust. And we are about to adopt a significant sort of approach to building up those wellbeing champions over the next year. But yeah, it's for those staff who are engaged, it's all about people who want to make a difference, who want to support other people, and we basically give them the tools and information to help be the best. So a couple of things that we're looking to do in the future. There is never a dull moment in our team. There's always something going on. We utilise awareness days throughout the year, sort of national days, national weeks, national months, to talk about health and wellbeing activities. But some of the things that we're looking to adopt in the future include recruitment of a wellbeing guardian. So this would be someone, most likely a non-exec director who sits on our board, to really champion wellbeing activities within our trust. So we get that top level endorsement for everything that we're trying to do, someone who really values the impact of wellbeing in our workforce. We are also looking to develop our staff health, sort of around physical and mental health, into a formal strategy. That's early days yet, but a lot of requests that we get are from staff saying they might benefit from having an on-site gym. They might benefit from having access to GP referrals on site, dental appointments. We know that dental appointments are really difficult for everyone to get hold of in the community. So providing sort of things that have a tangible, direct benefit to their health and well-being is something that we're looking at. Another thing we're looking at is protected time well-being. So it's it's great that our organization embraces well-being. We want people to stop during their working day, to take a minute, to have a break, to maybe try out yoga, that kind of thing. But if people don't ever have the permission to take part in activities, how can they look after themselves? So we're looking at how we can sort of change the culture to make sure that all managers across the trust embrace the opportunities that are presented to their workforce. We're also, as I mentioned, looking to expand our wellbeing champion network. And over the next year, we've got really big aspirations on becoming an anti-racist organisation. So through our staff survey, we've recognised that there's more we can do to combat discrimination, particularly around ethnicity. And we see this as an opportunity to really take a stance against racism. And we're looking at ways that we can provide anti-racist training across the whole organisation to really embed that into our culture. Part of that is merging our EDI function and our staff experience functions, because it's all part of building a successful culture. And we are also very fortunate that we are part of the second cohort of an exemplar organisation for the NHS People Promise. And my colleague Dave is a People Promise manager who's helped to embed the sort of 7 people promises that were established in 2021 to make working in the NHS the best it can be. And as I mentioned, as part of our acute provider collaborative work with our neighbours down the road, we are expanding that to the whole of our integrated care service. So working closer with all the healthcare providers within our area. So the BNSSG is Bath, Bristol, North Somerset, and South Gloucestershire. So working closer with our partners to give patients the very best care, but we can only do that if our staff feel that they're cared for as well. So, thank you very much for listening to me waffle on for nearly 45 minutes. So just wanted to open that up to any questions that anyone has. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, what we do here might not be unique. It isn't unique. I hear about a lot of other trusts around the country who are doing similar things, different things, but that sort of top level focus that well-being is an important part of our working lives is really important. That should be on every organization's agenda. Joanne?
Hi, Adrian. Just wanted to say thank you for sharing what you're doing at your trust. It's really impressive. And I think in particular, I've got a few things out of it, but the access to work through I can't was it Maximus you said?
Maximus, yeah.
That's something that I wasn't aware of, and I think we've only got a sort of small finance team here, but I'm just thinking about colleagues over the last few years. There's probably 1 or 2 that would have really, benefited from that. And just while he was on, I actually pinged it to our workforce director, and they had nothing. They know nothing about it, which is incredible, really, when you've got such a good resource out there. I just wondered how you'd found out about that, or where it was advertised. I'm a bit ashamed that our trust doesn't seem to know about it.
Yeah, well, we're quite new to it. It was only through, so my line manager and I are part of an NHS wellbeing network across all the NHS, and that network hosted a presentation by the service, and it was the first time my colleague and I had heard of it, and we thought, this is amazing, because we have high numbers of people waiting to access our counselling and support services, whether that's through our employee assistance program or our staff psychology team. And this gave a great sort of bridging gap. And it's free. It's apparently quite quick to access. It's funded by the Department for Work and Pensions, so it's government backed. And the goal is to really keep people in work or get them back to work quicker. And I think that recognition that you have, I think it's 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks you get a session over a 6-month period, and then the last 3 months I think it moves to maybe fewer sessions, like once a month. But the idea of having that regular contact, you really build up a rapport with someone. They're not counsellors as such, so that they're not providing therapy, but they're almost providing vocational coaching. So they talk about the challenges that individuals face with regards to their mental health, and just come up with ideas, coping strategies around that. The feedback I've heard from people who've accessed it is really, really positive. And yeah, like I said, it was only by chance, I want to say maybe 4 months ago that we found out about it, and we just thought, this is amazing, we need to get this out. So we're really working closely with our HR teams to let managers know that this is a service available, and it's been popular. So yeah, if you haven't already found it, just Google access to work, mental health support, and if you see Maximus, it's purple and green. You'll see the branding.
Yeah, I just googled access to work mental health and it came up first, so it was
Perfect.
really easy to find. So thank you for that. And then if I can just following up on the bit about trying to be positive about allowing people the time to access things like yoga, etc. Sort of I'm part of our LGBT plus network, and in an office role like I have it, apart from competing clashes and things like that, it's quite easy to access. Our DOF's really supportive of us being part of networks, but we do struggle with sort of colleagues that are sort of nursing colleagues on rotas being able to actually access networks and other things. So, and I know you said you're just at the start of it, but if you've got anything that you can share that is is helpful to allow that. I think some managers are more supportive than others,
Yeah,
but just
yeah,
patient pressures just seem to get in the way of
yeah.
all of that sort of stuff, which is sad, but inevitable, I guess.
Yeah, that I mean that is the reality. It's like the reason we're looking at this is through our own sort of engagement with our wellbeing champions. We find that only maybe 6% of our registered wellbeing champions were attending updates, and we thought actually we've got no measure on whether or not our champions are hearing about all the new interventions. So we felt we did a survey with that cohort to try and understand why people can't come, or are they getting the information they need. And the top reason that people didn't come is because they were told that patient pressures are more important, and that's true. But there's something around looking at how we work as a team to maybe set meetings up a year in advance, so that it's in our everyone's planning is much better. We recognize that some managers, particularly in corporate areas, are more flexible than clinical areas. But this is why we feel that we need to do something more strategic, particularly engaging with our senior leaders to say, look, the majority of our workforce are clinical. They're not getting access to all of these things. Their sickness absence rates going higher than other areas of the team. So we need to do something to help improve their well-being. This is one way of doing it. So getting that formal buy-in is one way. And we are asking people to take on additional voluntary roles, whether that's part of being a member of a network or being a wellbeing champion. It's all about helping the organization be better. But if they can't do it, there's no point. There's no point talking about it. So it's really trying to shape that discussion, I guess. We're considering going one step further by, in an ideal world, I would, and it will be in my proposal to our board, is to look at whether or not we can guarantee a percentage of annualized hours that are dedicated to staff taking part in wellbeing activities within a recognised list of things that people can do, and that might actually be volunteering within the organisation or with one of our community partners, because we know that volunteering is a good way to make people feel well. It could be accessing a variety of things that we offer staff, like a yoga session for free. We don't do them all the time. I mean, we do have paid for yoga sessions available to staff all the time, but if we wanted to offer a taster session, we want people to experience it so they can then think about doing it outside of work as well. If they just don't get the time to take part, there's no point doing those things. So it's about making sure that our effort is of value too. I will let you know how it goes, because it's quite an ask. There's a big time commitment there, and that does have a cost implication. And COVID hit most NHS trusts very, very hard in terms of being able to deliver, because the impact it had on a reduced workforce. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
I think it just cements that it's, it's hard, but it's certainly worth the effort to do it, because although there is a cost, there's obviously a benefit, which has a financial benefit to it as well, of being, retention of staff, less sickness, that whole thing. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. It's often said that for every pound you invest into the well-being of staff, you get an £8 return on investment. So that's how we like to think about with the initiatives we set up. But time pressure is a really difficult one to navigate. Any other questions from anyone? Louise?
Hi, yeah, sorry, I wasn't at the start of your presentation. Thank you very much for that. I found there was quite a few things in there that we are already doing within our trust, but there were some useful additional things to think about in there. So that was really helpful. I suppose my question, I take it you're within the finance department.
No, I'm part of.
You're part of.
We sit within HR, but we are
Okay.
We serve the whole hospital.
Right, okay. I suppose from someone from within the finance department, we have a overall trust offer, if you like, for health and well-being for staff. And I don't know how other colleagues have found this, but do you have this, the same level of buy-in within finance senior management in other trusts? I suppose is a question for other colleagues, I suppose. So it kind of almost like it's kind of overarching offer within the organization, but we don't actually have any health and well-being champions within our department. So it'd be interesting to know if that was replicated in other organizations that are represented here.
Louise, does your trust have health and wellbeing champions?
I believe so. Yes, we just don't seem to have any within the finance department.
Oh, that's a real shame, because
Yes.
I can only speak for our ambitions, is that we want to have basically someone dedicated to that role within every single team or department, and we've based our sort of target of 5% around one person for every 20 people. So that's it's like classrooms. You want to make sure that as a teacher for a certain amount of students to get the best amount of care. So that's what we base it on. And I would say if you don't have someone currently in your finance team, I would contact your whoever runs your program and ask to get involved, and maybe speak to your leaders to encourage someone to be chosen into that.
Yeah, I was trying to encourage some of our up and coming trainees who are ambitious and want to kind of add to their portfolios to kind of grab onto that and to encourage that approach within with the culture within the department.
Yeah, perfect way. Yeah. Joanne?
Hi Louise. So we do have a health and wellbeing champion in our team. I'm here today because they're in France watching the Tour de France at the moment, or Tour de France. So we have got that one person, and she's really an advocate of that. What we've also started doing as we have a face-to-face departmental meeting every 2 months, so bi-monthly, and part of that we dedicate to health and wellbeing. So we make sure that that's covered, at every meeting. So we don't have a health and wellbeing team within Derbyshire Healthcare, but we have a system health and wellbeing team. So we've had them come in and do a stress awareness at work session. We've done something on sleep. Amy herself did something on eating disorders. So we just try and make sure that that's covered every couple of months, as well as Amy also promoting everything that she sees from a health and wellbeing side. So it is supported right the way through the sort of senior management in finance.
Thanks, Joanne. That was really useful. I think something for me to kind of push a little bit more on and try and get that. We have monthly departmental meetings with the finance director, and it does kind of seem to be a one-way street of him updating us on things, and maybe that's something we could try and push to get on the agenda on an ongoing basis. So I think I'll take on the mantle a little bit and push it.
One other thing that, as part of our sort of plans for expanding our wellbeing network, as I said, the wellbeing guardian on the board level is key to that. So you get that person at the top to really champion everything that we then propose. We're also looking at, if we get to 5% of our workforce, I mentioned it's probably going to be about 500 to 600 people. That's quite a lot of people to manage regularly. In terms of updates. So we are going to propose recruiting a divisional wellbeing lead. And that's someone who would be responsible for all the wellbeing champions within their division. And there are certain nuances and different cultures within different pockets of the hospital. So we would be looking at recruiting someone within our corporate area to look after our finance teams, our HR teams, to make sure that they engage and filter that message down. So it's just another way that you could look at doing things, sort of recruiting someone who really knows what's going on within that particular area of your trust, and then work closer on a local level to make that change happen. Okay, so any further questions? 2 minutes to go. We've managed to fill an hour. Thank you so much for listening to me and inviting me to come and talk to you. Becky, please feel free to share my email address with the group if anyone would like to get in touch. They've got some specific questions that have come out. More than happy to have a chat.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Adrian. That was really interesting.
Cool.
And thanks everyone for attending.